Okay, I just want to let everyone know that we will be recording this workshop. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm Stacy Donovan, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Cultural Services Manager with the Parks, Rec, and Cultural Services Department. We're very excited to be discussing our second round of cultural grants provided by the Cultural Arts and Heritage Commission. We have $100,000 to share with the arts, culture, and heritage community, and we welcome your ideas and projects for discussion. This program recognizes that art, culture, and heritage programming enliven our community and elevate Vancouver's livability. Local artists, performers, and historians contribute to a vibrant and diverse Vancouver, and their success is vital for a thriving creative economy. Through Culture, Arts, and Heritage grants, the City of Vancouver seeks to fund programs that exemplify the best of our creative community through performances, exhibitions, events, and other innovative collaborations for the public's benefit. Feel free to share your questions and comments in the chat and to post while we're going through the slides. And of course, we'll leave time at the end for overall questions. Kirsten, would you like to introduce yourself quick?
Sure. I'm Kirsten Hull. I'm the support specialist for the Culture, Arts, and Heritage program at the City of Vancouver. And I work really closely with the grant program, particularly on the administrative side, working in the back end of the system to make sure that everything is running smoothly.
Okay, thank you. You can go. Okay. So for tonight's agenda, we'll be covering the grant program overview and share some great examples from the previous round of grants. We'll go over the grant process application from application to final report to ensure there's a good understanding of how each step is completed. We'll offer tips for project planning and writing a strong application. And of course, again, we'll leave time at the end for questions. So which projects are a good fit? Projects with a substantial cultural, art, and heritage component. These provide a sense of belonging, play a role in preservation and evolution of cultural identity. Projects that aim to preserve, interpret, and celebrate cultural identities and historical legacies. The projects need to occur between July 2024 and December 15th of 2025. These are projects that occur within city limits or serve its residents. So that means the nonprofit can be outside of city limits as long as the programming is serving the city limits, is happening within city limits. Projects that are led by a nonprofit or a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. If you are not a nonprofit, our commissioners are happy to connect you with a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. The application can be co-edited with the fiscal sponsor, and the fiscal sponsor will need to sign the agreement, but we can talk a little bit more about that when Kirsten gets into the application. We do have a matching requirement of 20%. This can include 10% of in-kind donations, but 10% also must be cash. Okay, Kirsten? So some examples we have of successful projects from our previous year's grant program: indoor and outdoor murals, historical exhibits and displays, walking and biking tours, outdoor sculptures and functional art like bike racks, rental fee and marketing support for organizations, festivals like Clark County Open Studios and the Great River Arts Festival. Go ahead, Kirsten. And we have a list of eligible and ineligible expenses. We can cover artist and contractor fees, exhibition and production cost, equipment under $5,000 per unit, marketing and promotion, up to 15% of overhead. So that could include professional and artist fees, graphic design, advertising fees, venue rental, admin fees, insurance, professional development, programming for artists. A few of our ineligible items are debt. We can't cover already outstanding debt or items for resale, membership dues, lobbying or fundraising, private events. We do require that the public is invited to any events and activities that are covered by this grant. Projects that are already funded and completed. We can't support alcohol at events or cash prizes that are provided at any event or activity that you are using this grant for. Okay, Kirsten? And we do have some evaluation criteria. The commission would really appreciate if the project elevated Vancouver's livability by demonstrating social and economic impact. Does it bring in tourism revenue? Are the projects visible to the community? Does it celebrate our vibrant and diverse community? Exemplify the best of Vancouver's creative community by demonstrating strong feasibility and creative merit. Support innovation and collaboration. That's really important to us. Does your project include other individuals, organizations, or communities? Does it contribute to a variety of culture, arts, and heritage experiences in Vancouver? The commission will be looking for a wide range of projects that contribute to the variety and diversity of our community. Kirsten, go ahead. So I'm going to hand it over to Kirsten to go through how the grant works. She'll be going over the application itself and the award details. She'll be talking about the projects, anything from marketing to reimbursement. And then the final report, that is the project outcome and the storytelling and narrative around how your grant is funding what you're working on. So Kirsten, I'll go ahead and hand this over to you.
Thanks, Stacy. Like we said, I'm just going to walk through a broad overview of how the grant process works, and then I will touch on the timeline for this year so you know when these key dates and due dates are. So the first phase of the application process, or the first phase of the grant process, is the application. So when you're thinking through, when you're formulating your project idea, you want to be putting together different materials that will support your application, and those include your project idea. You'll also be asked to submit a visual of what that could look like, whether that's a rendering of a project that you're going to create or examples of past work that are relevant to this project. You also want to be putting together a project budget that shows that 20% match, like Stacy mentioned. And you'll also need some relationship to a nonprofit. They can either be the project lead or they can serve as a fiscal sponsor if you're an individual artist. But this grant program is open. It has that nonprofit requirement. We'll talk about that, how that works in detail when we go through the second half and talk about the application in particular. To create your application, you're going to want to log in and create a free account in our grant portal. That's something else we'll go through in more detail in the future. And when you log in, you'll get your list of questions that you'll type in, and then you'll also have options to upload those attachments that I mentioned, your project budget, your visuals, optional letters of support, and maybe project bios, that type of thing that really supports your project idea and demonstrates how it's integrated into the community as a whole. And then those applications are collected and they are reviewed by the Culture, Arts, and Heritage Commission. They are the commission that oversees all culture, arts, and heritage activities in the city of Vancouver, and they serve as the award committee for this grant process. So once the commission decides and whose projects and which projects will be approved, staff will notify applicants of their decision. You'll get a notification either of approval or denial, or the commission also has the option to provide partial funding to projects as well. So once that happens, any projects that are awarded, the grantee will sign a grant agreement with the city of Vancouver. And that is a contract that serves as, here is what you said you would do in the project. Your application is attached as the scope of work. And that is signed by the grantee and submitted back to the city of Vancouver. We also ask for things like proof of insurance and the payment information for how we will give the funds either to you or to the fiscal sponsor. And then the grantees, after all that paperwork is done, you're free to start your projects. So we have an 18-month project period where it's a little bit shorter than 18 months. where you are working on your project and applying for reimbursements for the grant through that time period. So things you'll want to be keeping in mind while you're in the implementation phase is you'll want to be crediting grant funding wherever possible. That could be in your advertising for the event or in your opening remarks if you're having an event. You'll also want to keep the commission and staff up to date on any project milestones or performance dates, grand openings, that type of thing, or any changes to your timelines. And you'll also want to be saving your receipts and invoices to fill out the reimbursement paperwork. So for reimbursements, you will submit a list of your receipts and your invoices through the grant portal, the same place you filled out the application. And then we process that and release funds to the grantee or the fiscal sponsor. And that can either happen at the very end of your project, once everything is wrapped up, or you can do that in chunks if that's easier for you, if you have different phases to your project and need to spread the funding out a little bit. So once your project is completed, you move into the reporting phase. And the final report, it's basically an accountability tool. It helps us know where our funds go, what types of projects they support. It helps us with storytelling for the value of the program itself. And it also helps us kind of keep the program alive. So the final report, it's just like the application. You will log in. It'll be a series of questions. And those types of questions will include, how many people interacted with your project? Did you have event attendees? Did you have volunteers? Maybe people viewed your artwork or your videos you created, that type of thing. It'll also ask you to reflect on the project itself. Was it successful? Did you run into any challenges? Do you have feedback for us about how the grant process went for you? And then it will ask you questions like your final project cost and also to share any participant quotes or any project photos. Again, that really helps us with the storytelling that keeps the grant program alive because we can share that news out in the community. We can share that with City Council who funds the projects. It really helps us create a sense of express the sense of value for these projects. So that's the 3 phases, and I'll talk about the key dates that we're using for this year. So the grant application is already open currently, and your applications are due on April 7th. What happens on April 7th is I collect all the applications and I do a sort of quick review of them, mostly for completion or if we have any questions. And we will be able to get those questions back to you for revision. And we have another sort of hard deadline for your revisions on April 19th. So we will be reviewing things like the budget form, just kind of making sure that the details are captured and things are recorded in the correct column, that type of stuff. Or maybe if only part of the question is answered, we might reach back out and say, hey, I noticed that you left out the second half. Could you maybe beef that up a little bit before it goes to the review committee? So you get a chance to get some feedback on it before it's reviewed. Then the Culture Arts and Heritage Commission, who serves as the review committee, they meet and they will make their funding recommendation in their regular board meeting. Once that happens, we start processing. We reach out to everybody to update them on the status, and then we start processing those things like the grant award agreements and the paperwork, the proof of insurance, that type of stuff. And then for these projects in this grant cycle, you'll need to have them completed by December 15th and have that final reimbursement for funding request into us by that time. So that's a quick overview of kind of the broad scheme of the application and grant process. And I just want to pause there for any questions from the group before we move on to the details of the application in particular. And I don't see any questions in the chat yet. But if anyone in the audience has a question, just let us know.
And Kirsten, I just want to remind people that's December 15th of 2025.
Thanks. Yes, that makes a big difference. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm just going to move right along into the application. Oh, no, we have a question in the chat. This is about performance art. Let me read the question. Would performance art also be welcome to apply? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. When I'm talking about these project ideas, I tend to use the word event a lot, but I don't necessarily mean event like a party or a festival or that kind of thing. It can be a performance, it can be an unveiling, it can take a lot of different forms. So thank you for that. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the application itself and just go through, some tips for project planning and for composing a strong application. So what is in the application? So in addition to the details of what you're doing, how much it'll cost, that type of thing, it'll also ask you to really reflect on what is the impact of this project? How will it affect those in the community who participate in this project or who view it? It'll ask you to write a little bit about the artistic merit or creative merit, and to really consider who your target audience is and how you'll reach out to them. So in order to, start working on the application, start putting your project idea together, we do have a lot of project planning resources at cityofvancouver.us/culture grants, which is our main page. That's where you went to register for this workshop. So if you are looking on the project planning tab, you can find information about our eligibility guidelines. You can find a preview of the application questions if you just want to read them before you go create an account in the grant portal. Maybe you're not sure if this is the right fit for your project. You can preview that ahead of time. And then you can also take a look at the budget template that we provide for you. We're going to go through the budget template in a little bit more detail in the next slide, but that is something that you'll be able to pull off of the city's website. So everyone is sharing a common template. So once you kind of read through that planning tab and get an idea, you'll want to start preparing your project materials. That includes the budget, the visual that I mentioned earlier that really helps you express visually your project or relevant past experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a rendering of a sculpture or that type of thing. If your main art form that you're working in is video, it could just be a PDF with links to where you have different video clips posted online so that we can just get a sense of your past work. There's also optional places to upload letters of support. If you're working with a fiscal sponsor, it's nice to provide a letter of support from them so that we get that captured within the application itself. We know who you're working with. We understand the connection, like the thematic connection between the nonprofit and the project that you're working on. And then there's also a place if you want to upload any biographies of the people that you're collaborating with as well. So in the next slide, we're going to go through the budget, and then I will move over and we'll get in Found It, and we'll kind of take a peek at what that will look like. But let's talk about the budget template. So like I said, you can find that on the city's webpage, and it has 3 distinct categories that you'll need to fill out. The first one is the expense budget. I think that's what we think of when we think of a budget, is how much is it going to cost. This will help us articulate, the money that you're anticipating spending to complete this project. We also ask you about a revenue budget, which would be the money that you might earn through this project. Maybe you have ticket sales or merchandise sales, or maybe some donations or affiliated with this project that would be captured in the revenue budget. And then we also have an area for you to describe any in-kind contributions. So maybe a local business donated some of the supplies. Maybe they donated the paint for a mural or that type of thing. You would indicate the value of how much that would have cost if you would have had to purchase it. You can also do that for work time. Maybe a professional that you're working with is just donating their hours. And so you would be able to estimate, okay, this person did this work for free, but if we would have paid for it, it would have cost this much. So that's the three categories of the budget. Within the expense budget itself, we ask for two different numbers. We ask for the grant funded amount, which is what you want this grant to cover, what you're applying for. And then we also ask an applicant funded amount, and that would be in expenses that you are covering for your matching requirement. So that could be cash that you have on hand, or maybe other grants that you're going out for, other donations you've already collected to get started for this. And then that will automatically total into the total cost on the form. So let me pull up the form. I'm going to stop sharing the slides and we can just look at all of that together and see how it's laid out on the budget form. Just give me a moment to switch over here. Okay, so are folks seeing the spreadsheet that I have here?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what the budget form looks like. Any of these boxes that are in green will be what you're filling out. It has the three categories, these blue headings that I just described, the expense budget, the revenue budget, and the in-kind contributions. And then the two columns that I described, your grant funded amount here, which is what you're asking this grant to cover. And then the applicant funded amount on this side, which is anything that you would be covering from funds you already have. Like I said, those are totaled up down at the bottom, and that allows us to verify that you're meeting the matching requirement. There's also a place in here, a description box where we just ask you to describe what materials you're purchasing, maybe make an itemized list if that's appropriate. And you also have the option to drag these down a little bit and resize them if you need a little bit more room. So that is what the budget form looks like. Are there any questions about that before I move on to the application? Okay. Next, I'm going to hop over to that cityofvancouver.us/culture grants page that I've described, and I'll show you where to download that budget form. It's here in the project planning tab. You scroll down to the bottom, you can see download the budget template, the eligibility guidelines, or preview the questions. And you'll also find the big blue Apply Now button. So the Apply Now button is where you'll go to create that login on the free grant portal. You can create a new account here. If you've never created an account here before, there's a good video over here on this column that really walks you through how to set your account up. It is oriented towards having a nonprofit affiliation. So it will ask you for your EI-9 number, but it'll provide instructions. If you aren't working through a nonprofit, you can just enter zeros for that. I recommend watching this little tutorial. But once you log in, oh, it logged me out. I'm gonna hop back over to the slides really quick while I type in all my information to log in. I need some Jeopardy music or something while I work on this.
I was muted doing the Jeopardy music. do, 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 do.
Okay, we are back in business. Let me switch the window back. So when you click on the blue Apply Now button and you log in after you've created your account, it'll take you to a dashboard. But if you haven't ever done done a grant with us before, the dashboard's not going to be helpful, and you'll want to go up to this Apply tab up here at the top. And this is where you can see a list of all of the grant applications that we have open right now. We're talking about the 2024 Culture, Arts, and Heritage grants, but we have different programs that run throughout the year. For example, there's a community and neighborhood grant program that is also running at the same time, and our lodging tax event program as well. But for this one, it just gives you some background information on the project and also our email address if you have any questions while you're going through this, or if you want to talk to us about getting that matched with the nonprofit fiscal sponsor. We have our contact information on here for you. So when you're ready to apply, you'll click on the apply button there. And this is the application. So there's a couple of things that I want to point out really quick. Up here at the top, we have an option to change the language if that's easier for you to view it in a different language than English. We have that option up here. And as you go through the application, we also have there should be a collaborate button, and I'm not seeing it on here. So I will need to follow up on where the collaborate button is, because that will be very important if you're working with a fiscal sponsor. So it looks like I might need to troubleshoot that. But really quick, we'll just run through some of the questions on the application. A lot of them will ask you to type in responses, and they do have character limits down here at the bottom. So just be mindful of that as you are drafting your responses to these questions. There's also a place to, if you need a fiscal sponsor, once you've found them, there will be a place for you to type in information about that organization's name and their mission statement in the application here. And then in addition to, questions where you're typing in answers, there are also places to upload a file, and it will show you the file upload, like the size limit for those uploads as well. If you're having trouble with that, definitely reach out to us, because we might be able to adjust that or have you submit it via email. We can work with you so that you are really getting us the materials that you want to be sending to the application committee. So this is what the application looks like. And yeah, I think the last thing is there's also an option to save and come back, or to submit once it's all complete. So are there any questions about filling out the application or in Foundant itself? Okay, let's go back to the slides. Let's see, where did we leave off? All right. I just want to open it up to, general questions about anything we covered here or about your project in particular. We're here to talk through that as part of our presentation tonight as well.
I do want to reiterate, if you have any questions throughout the process of filling out your application, please don't hesitate to save at where you are in that process and email the address here, and we will get back to you quickly to help talk through any issues or concerns that you're having and just really help troubleshoot. Looks like we have a question there, Kirsten.
Yeah, we have a question in the chat. Does it matter how long the fiscal sponsor has been a nonprofit? I would say no, as long as they, we will verify that EIN number. That has to be current and up to date. But I don't think that we have considered the length of that as a criteria before in any of the award decisions that we've made in the past.
We do have a couple of in-person workshops scheduled. The next one is next Wednesday at 6 p.m. at Forest Plain Commons. And then the next one is, I believe, Kirsten, do you have that date for the Furstenberg?
Let me look really quick.
The next one will be on the east side at our Furstenberg Community Center at 6:30. Sorry, I didn't have this already up.
Looks like it's March 12th.
March 12th, 6:30 at the Furstenberg Community Center. So those are two options for meeting in person. Kirsten and I will both be there. We'll have some commissioners there as well. Please feel free to come and sit down with us and talk through your project. The commissioners are more than happy to talk through any ideas you have and even maybe share some suggestions that might help create a stronger application for you. And we are looking at potentially adding some more in-person and online workshops as well.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
I'm Christine Richardson. I'm the chair of the Culture, Arts, and Heritage Commission. We want you to be successful. We want your application to be successful. We want all of your questions answered. We want you to have all of the information. So just know that we are pro you. We're interested in all the projects. We're interested in having conversations about the projects. We're interested, again, in having, as Stacy and Kirsten both said, in having you have the tools that you need to apply for this grant. So nothing is, there's no dumb questions. Grant applications can be very complicated. They can be they can be a lot overwhelming. So please ask questions. Please just know that, again, your success is our success, that this is the point of doing this. And so please ask questions. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, I'm Beth Harrington, also one of the commissioners on for Culture, Arts, and Heritage, and I'm also a filmmaker and have written a lot of grants over the years. And I know at the beginning I was reluctant to ask questions because I thought it would somehow reveal that I didn't know what I was doing. And in fact, most funders, especially us, want to build a relationship with you. So asking questions is a really good thing. And, this is an ongoing thing too in Vancouver. We're trying to cultivate a culture of art that we know is here, but isn't often, the individuals aren't as visible. So I, encourage you to reach out for the same, to back up what Christine said, but also to encourage you because it's relationship building for the future. And this may not be the last grant you apply for, and that we all move around the city in different capacities, and you just never know how this is all going to work out. So I think it's good to establish a real dialogue with us now. So go for it.
And just a reminder, if there are any translation needs, please reach out to us and we'll do everything we can to help support those needs. As Kirsten mentioned, there is an option on the application that you can choose a language that works better, but anywhere along the process, please reach out and we'll do whatever we can to support those needs. All right, well, you have the email address and the phone number there, so please feel free to reach out to us. Try to attend one of our in-person workshops if you're interested, and we're very excited about this opportunity. The commissioners are available to talk further, and we really want to see what we can do for the city of Vancouver with culture, arts, and heritage. Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.